Welcome to the first ever episode of the Around the Bases podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Harper. This podcast is going to serve as a source of all things Major League Baseball, from every team to news to big performances and everything in between throughout the rest of this Major League season. This podcast will be coming to you on Mondays and Thursdays in the morning each week, as well as there will be updates on Instagram and short reels on TikTok, as well as Instagram and YouTube Shorts throughout the entirety of the 2026 MLB season. So for more, make sure to follow on Instagram at jharperbaseball, as well on TikTok, and subscribe here on YouTube so you don't miss notifications when I upload podcasts. So let's start off with the first segment of the podcast. And we're going to talk about the Atlanta Braves. As you saw in the title of this video, they have been one of the best teams in baseball this season. It's a return to form for the Braves. They missed the playoffs last year. 2024 was not their best season. And now here in 2026, they have been able to take the league by storm again. They have the best record in baseball at 25-10. They have a 4-game lead in the National League East over the Miami Marlins as of this moment, and they have just been rolling. They just finished a sweep of the Colorado Rockies this weekend, where they won the final game 11-6. They won the middle game 9-1, and they won Friday night 8-6 after coming back from down 6-0 early in the game. They came all the way back and scored 8 unanswered to win that game. And it's just been more of the same for Atlanta. They haven't lost a series this season. The only series that they've had 2 losses was early in the year when they went on the road the second weekend of the season and took on the Diamondbacks in a 4-game series, which they won the first 2, lost the last 2. But besides that, they have not lost a series and not lost 2 games in a series this season. The one hit you could say on them is that they have not faced that many teams over 500 going into today. It was nobody. After wins by Cleveland and Detroit, they are both now over 500. The Braves took both series against those teams, but that is a very small sample size for teams over 500. But again, it is early. They've also played teams like the Phillies 6 times, and the Phillies have not fully rounded into form, it seems like. So far, that's the case for multiple teams: Arizona, Kansas City. The list goes on and on with teams that Atlanta has faced, and they might not have, turned into form yet. But 25-10 is still an incredible record. They're the first team to 20 wins. They most likely would be the first team to 30 wins as well. And honestly, the scary part about this is that they're not even fully healthy yet. Spencer Strider just made his return today after missing the beginning of the season. He was shaky at best, but again, it is his first start back with the Braves rotation. Spencer Swellbach and Hurston Waldrop are still out. We don't know if they're going to even pitch anytime soon. And those are 2 big pieces to Atlanta's rotation. But a big part of Atlanta's success has been their lineup. But now they just took another blow with Ronald Acuna Jr. going on the IL today with left hamstring tightness. He pulled his hamstring Saturday night in Colorado. He had to leave the game early, did not play on Sunday, went on the IL on Sunday, and he will be out for at least 10 days, if not longer. It is a concern for Atlanta. He has dealt with injuries in the past. Last year, missed the first couple of weeks with recovering from his torn ACL. Missed most of the second half of 2024 because of the torn ACL. In 2022, missed time because of torn ACL. 2021, tore his first ACL. And those are just his major injuries. So it's been another key theme for Ronald Acuna Jr. over these past couple of years has been injuries, and that is something that he has to, it's something that has cost the Braves in the past and will be big in this season if they can stay healthy to continue this hot start. But he, hasn't had his best numbers: 252 average, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, which is high in Major League Baseball, 740 OPS over the start of the season for Atlanta. And that has been something that he has usually been their top guy, but he hasn't had to be this season because of all the production from other guys. The first one we'll talk about is Drake Baldwin, last year's National League Rookie of the Year. He's having an incredible season so far in 2026. 315 average, 908 on OPS, 8 home runs, 29 RBIs, tied first in the majors for hits, second in the majors in RBIs. And he's been a big part of what Atlanta's done this season as he's evolved into being one of the better catchers in Major League Baseball over these past 2 years. He's continuing what he was able to do during his rookie season, which is something that is impressive. You see a lot of rookies go through sophomore slumps. They are as good in their second year. And Drake Baldwin has a chance to be even better than his stats were in 2025, and that will be big for Atlanta if they're trying to make the playoffs. Another person who's improving on their 2025 is Ozzie Albies, who's having an incredible year so far. Incredible first 35 games for Atlanta. 333 average, 384 on base, 548 slugging, a 932 OPS, 7 home runs, 22 RBIs. Tied first with Baldwin for hits in the major leagues with 45, and is 7th in average across Major League Baseball. And it's a big step for Albies. Last year, he had the worst year of his career. First time he finished with under a 7 OPS in his entire career, and it hurt him in his play. He played 157 games, but it just wasn't the same production that was there in past years. Last year, he started out the season, his first 35 games, he batted .245, so his percentage is almost 100 more points just in 1 year. And that's a big move. And that's big for Atlanta because they need a guy like Albies to be a guy who's showing up every day, getting on base, getting hits. And that's something he's been able to do throughout his career. And that's something he's doing this season, which has been a key part to their success. Someone else who's having a really good bounce back season is Michael Harris. And I want to give a shout out to him because he's been great in 2026. In 2022, he was the National League Rookie of the Year, and he showed up. His average was really high, and he was hitting for power. Last season, he hit for power. The power hit his most home runs in his career with 20, had his first 2020 season. But what struggled was the average. It was his lowest of his 4-year career to that point. He also had the most strikeouts of his career by far. He did play his most games, which is important. But again, his strikeouts were high. His average was low. This season, what he's able to do, the power is high. Already, he's at 7 home runs just in May, to the point where we could be talking about close to a 30 home run season for Michael Harris if he keeps this pace up. His stolen bases are still where they used to be. He's stealing bases. He gets on pace for another 20 stolen base season, something he's hit almost every single year in his career. And again, his OPS is a career high. Right now, it's a 911 OPS. He's 12th in the league in average, 11th in slugging. His power numbers are the highest they've been, like I said, in his entire career. But the difference from last year to this year is that the average is there with it, something that it wasn't there last season when his power was up. And that's something that's big for Atlanta. He's usually batting in the bottom of the order. He's usually bottom 7 in the Braves order, which is crazy to think about. A guy who's putting up these numbers, who's on pace, I would say, to be an all-star in the National League, is batting 9th on a really good team. Most teams, he'd be batting the top 6, top 5, even top 3. But Atlanta's so deep that he's able to bat 9th, and it really helps. Almost as a second leadoff hitter, but someone who can have power. And the RBI numbers are finally showing for Michael Harris in what has been an incredible 2026 to this point. But it would be a mistake to not talk about Atlanta's best player this season, which is Matt Olson, who's been one of the most consistent players in Major League Baseball in his tenure with the Braves. He is on pace for another 30 home run season. He's already at 11, 31 RBIs, which is first in Major League Baseball. He also leads Major League Baseball in doubles with 13. He is 8th in hits, 1st in runs, 4th in slugging percentage, 5th in OPS, 5th in home runs this season, a 299 average, a 1.030 OPS. He's been tearing the cover off of the baseball, something that he's done in his entire career. He's continuing to do it this year, and where you could make the case where Matt Olson could be, at this point, the MVP of the National League. He has been one of, if not the best player in the National League this season. And it's something that has been really big for the Atlanta Braves because without him, I do not know where they would be, but they definitely wouldn't be in this position. So the 4 guys I just mentioned are having huge for Atlanta to continue to be huge. If they want to continue the success all the way throughout the season, this is going to be a part of it. Another big part is their rotation. Chris Sale is doing Chris Sale things. He's a future Hall of Famer for a reason, having another incredible season. Almost like Wide, how he ages so fine, right? But you look at the second pitcher on the Braves, who's been their second best pitcher, Bryce Elder, something that most people would not have expected coming into the season, has a 1.88 ERA over his first 7 starts with 36 strikeouts and a 1.05 WHIP. He's 6th in the MLB in ERA across starters this season. It's been something that has been a big piece for Atlanta. Their starters have been their biggest issue when it comes to health, in between Strider, Swellbach, Waldrop. Smith-Shawver have been out for a little bit as well. So it was questioned, can Elder come back to form like he was in 2023 or 2022, or will they have to call someone up from the minors? And Elder's been able to step up into that second starter role that Atlanta has desperately needed. Him, as well as Martin Perez, have been huge for Atlanta this season, and it's going to be something that when the Braves, as they continue this run, this is going to be why a strong start to the season before everybody's healthy is going to be a big part. That's why Atlanta goes to the postseason most likely again, breaking their 1-year drought. But I will say, as I wrap up on the Braves, this team is it reminds me a lot of the 2023 Atlanta Braves, where they had the best record in Major League Baseball, hit a lot of home runs, ended up losing in the NLDS to the Phillies in 4 games, but they were one of the best teams in Major League Baseball history during the regular season. With how many home runs they hit, everybody's stats were through the roof, and a lot of these guys' seasons are reminiscing of 2023, such as Ozzie Albies. He's having numbers very similar to 2023. Matt Olson had 54 home runs in 2023. He didn't win MVP because Ronald Acuna Jr. had 40 home runs and 70 RBI and 70 stolen bases. But Matt Olson had a really, really good 2023. He led the majors in home runs, and he's having a really good 2026 to this point. They're having a strong season from Drake Baldwin, who has been key to their success. He wasn't on the 2023 team, but a guy like him is key to their success throughout the season, as well as Michael Harris, who's coming back to form like he was in 2023. The biggest question for Atlanta has been Austin Riley, whose production has not been at the level as the others, and it brings up the question. He was out for most of last year due to injury, now struggling this year. What's next for Austin Riley and the Atlanta Braves? What does his future look like in Atlanta? Where do they give him an extension? What does it look like for Austin Riley in Atlanta? And it's something, and obviously again, it is still May, so you can't count a guy out yet, but it's something that is concerning for Braves and Braves fans, that his production still hasn't picked up, and it's something that will definitely be monitored over the next couple of weeks as we get closer to trade season. Next thing on the topics are the National League Central. What a hot start the Central has had. What has become the best division in baseball, something that no one expected coming into the season. The National League Central, every single team is over 500 right now, which is something that is so rare, especially into May, that every single team is over 500. The Cubs are 22-12. They are 14-3 in their last 17 games. 15-3 in their last 18 games. They are currently first in the division, and they're 2.5 games back from the Braves for the best record in the National League. The Cardinals, who no one expected to be this good, are 20-14. They're second, as well as the Reds. They're also 20-14. The Brewers are 18-15. They just came off a weekend series win in Washington. And the Pittsburgh Pirates are 19-16 after they dominated the Cincinnati Reds this weekend, sweeping them in Pittsburgh. And all 5 of these teams, right as of right now, would have a shot at the playoffs. 3 of them are in. The Cubs would be the 2 seed because of their lead in the division. Then you have the Cardinals and Reds would hold the last 2 wildcard spots, and then the Pirates and Brewers are only a game and a half back of them. So what is huge about this is that hot starts are big in Major League Baseball. If you could start hot during the season, it gives you more of a cushion during the tough months of the summer into September when things are going to get more difficult. See, if this was the American League, who have not had the best seasons all around, all five of these teams would probably make the playoffs or be in a really comfortable position. At least four of them would. You can only have four in. They'd be in much comfortable position. But the National League is such a hard league, considering you have teams like Arizona, you have the Phillies, the Mets, teams that haven't woken up yet, who are going to. And that is something that, for a team like Milwaukee, a team like Pittsburgh, and a team like St. Louis, could be concerning, because this is hot start sustainable. And one of the teams I want to talk about is the Cardinals. The Cardinals, no one expected this out of St. Louis. This was a rebuild year. Traded Sonny Gray, traded Brendan Donovan. They traded Wilson Contreras, traded Nolan Arenado this offseason. All of their top players were moved during the offseason. But now they're 20-14, which no one expected. And they just beat the Dodgers in a series, the back-to-back defending world champions. They beat them in a series. And it might just seem like, oh, baseball teams win series. But this is monumental for a team that no one expected to do. This is a rebuild year for the St. Louis Cardinals. They brought up their young prospects. J.J. Weatherholt was on the opening day roster. He's been hitting leadoff this entire season. And St. Louis is still thriving. And a big part of that is Jordan Walker, who's having a career year, a career coming out party almost, even though he's been in the major leagues for a little bit. A 307 average, a 964 OPS, 10 home runs and 27 RBIs, 10th in OPS, 8th in slugging, 8th in RBIs, 7th in home runs. He has been a big part of this run for St. Louis. Without him, they would not be in this position. As well as J.J. Weatherholt, who has been incredible. He has an 800 OPS over his first month in the major leagues. Alec Burleson is continuing at the plate as well. So is Avad Herrera, who's having another incredible season. All three of those guys have OPSs over 800. Mason Wind is adding at the plate. They have questions still around their lineup. But the fact that they have 20 wins in May is just something that no one saw coming. And it's something that is really significant and what they want to do in the future. Realistically, is this sustainable? No. Their rotation has a lot of questions. Their best has been Michael McGreevy as a 2.52 ERA over 7 starts. But most of these numbers are, they're good on paper, but they're at surface level, but they're not that good. McGreevy has a 4.09 FIP, which means without his fielding, his ERA would be around 4. And it's just not something that is sustainable over the length of an MLB season for the Cardinals. As much as I would love to see them continue, I just don't think it's going to be realistic. And honestly, it's probably not best for them to continue if they get put in a position to have to buy at the trade deadline. That's something that could be really bad as they try to rebuild and build their farm system throughout the season. What's best is probably them trading away someone like Alec Burleson, trading away some of the younger guys, but also guys who are about to be on expiring deals who could get you a couple prospects here or there. And that's going to be what they have to do for the trade deadline, and even if they're a contending team, because they have a future goal in mind, a more important goal in mind. That's being contenders in 2027 and 2028. Realistically, they're not going to be a contender this year. But their hard start isn't something to just shoo off. This is really, really, really impressive from the St. Louis Cardinals, and something that should not go unnoticed. Next, let's talk about the team that they beat and one of their best players, the Dodgers. The Dodgers lost the series to the Cardinals. They are on a 6-game home run drought, which is their longest since 2014. And a big part and a missing piece, I would say, of the Dodgers right now is Shohei Ohtani. At the plate, he has regressed a lot from his first 2 seasons with the Dodgers. It's so far in 2026, a 246 average, 6 home runs and 13 RBIs, 382 on base percentage, 443 slugging, only 6 doubles, 4 stolen bases. And for someone who had back-to-back 50 home run seasons with the Dodgers. This is a major step back. His numbers are not as good. Even his advanced metrics are not as good so far this season. And it's something that it doesn't go unnoticed because the Dodgers lineup has been struggling overall. Shohei not being able to do what he was producing at the level he's been producing is going to be a big missing piece to this team. But if you're the Dodgers, you have to ask that question. What do you value more, Shohei the hitter or Shohei the pitcher? Because the biggest thing over the last 2 years is that Shohei wasn't really pitching. He pitched towards the end of last season, from the middle point to the end, and he would pitch every 5 days, every 5 to 6 days. But you would only be going about 5 innings. You wouldn't be pitching, like an actual starting pitcher. Now, this season, he's given more of a leash. He's had 5 starts. He's pitched in 30 innings, so he's going about 6 innings per start. And he's been one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball doing that. A .60 ERA over his 5 starts, 34 strikeouts for Shohei Ohtani. And it's the question you have to ask yourself. Do you take Shohei the hitter or Shohei the pitcher? And can you get the best of both worlds? Does that mean he moves to the bullpen and he pitches once every 5-6 days like he is a starter, but he's only going 2 to 3 innings? Does that mean he's not hitting every day? Recently the Dodgers have not had him hit when he pitches, so let's say that continues, and let's say another day out of the days he doesn't pitch, he doesn't hit, right? And you take away his value more as a hitter. And that is something that the Dodgers and Dave Roberts should be honestly happy to make that decision, because you have a player like Shohei Ohtani, a once-in-a-generation player and a once-in-a-generation talent. And the question is, how do you manage that? He is one of, if not the best pitcher in the National League right now so far this season. But again, their biggest issue so far has not been their rotation. It's more been their lineup. They haven't been able to score as much as they were. Again, like I said, they have a home run drought, which is something you would never think you would hear for the Dodgers, considering who's in their lineup. Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Pages, Kyle Tucker, Will Smith, the power all around that lineup, and they're just not producing right now. And it's something that, for the Dodgers, the fact that they're winning games, even though most of their stars have not been able to produce power numbers, just overall, is something that is a great sign for them, considering that people are going to get hot. Mookie Betts is going to come back. He's currently on the injured list. And people are going to get hot. And when that happens, that's a dangerous game for the Dodgers and for the rest of the Major League Baseball. But for Ohtani, the question is, will he remain this phenomenon two-way player, or will the Dodgers decide that one side is more valuable? Next, it's time to go to the AL side of things. The AL Beast, I would call them, is the AL East. And what a season the two top teams are having, the Tampa Bay Rays and the New York Yankees. We'll talk about the Rays first. They're 21-12, 1.5 games back in the division. They do have the second best record in the American League, and they are first in the wild card standings. And they are having an incredible season so far. And again, which no one really anticipated them doing, but they have been able to really use their starting pitching to win them games. They have the 4th best rotation ERA in baseball at 3.20. And a big part of that has been the return of Shane McClanahan. He has a 3.10 ERA and 6 starts with 30 strikeouts. Drew Rasmussen is having another great season with a 2.64 ERA in his 6 starts with 32 strikeouts. But the biggest surprise has been Nick Martinez. They signed him as a free agent later, right before spring training start, and what he's been able to do has been nothing short of incredible. A 1.70 ERA over 6 starts. His ERA is 5th in the major leagues. A 1 whip, 24 strikeouts over his 37 innings of work. And this is a great start to a season on the surface level. But the issue is, when you look at the other numbers, this is not going to most likely last long. He's bottom 20% percentile in K rate, in whiff, and his expected ERA is a 3.86, which is more closer to his career numbers. Is this a good season? Yes, it is a good season for Nick Martinez. But the issue is more the fact that his numbers are a little misleading, and there is going to be a point where he's not going to be having these more lucky, as numbers say, outings, and it's going to end up hurting him and the Tampa Bay Rays. Again, his expected ERA is almost 2 runs higher than what his current ERA is, and that's just something you don't really see a lot. So the biggest thing for Nick Martinez is going to be most likely getting more outs, striking more batters out. And the hardest thing for Martinez is that his expected ERA is always going to be a little higher because he's more of a contact pitcher. He's not striking as many guys out, which is going to be something that does end up hurting him during the season. Last year, his ERA was pretty high in Cincinnati, almost a 4 during the season, right? His ERA the year before that was a 3.10, and he was getting more contact outs. It's just more about where he pitches and also how many outs he can get in an outing. This being one of his first full years as a starter is, he's been really, really productive so far for Tampa Bay. And it's been something that has been a big surprise for all of Major League Baseball. Another big surprise with the Rays has been Brian Baker, who's their new closer. P. Fairbanks no longer a Tampa Bay left during the offseason, was not tendered. Griffin Jax, who they acquired last year at the trade deadline, has not worked out as a closer. They're moving him more into a starter role starting soon. So they needed a closer. They turned to Brian Baker. He was acquired last year from Baltimore in July of 2025. During his time now with Tampa Bay this season, he has a 2.70 ERA and 8 saves, which is 5th in Major League Baseball. And a consistent arm like him is huge for a team who's contending this season all of a sudden in a weak AL. They have a really good chance to go to the playoffs. Even if they continue throughout the month of May, it'll be really hard for Tampa Bay to fall out. And a really solid pitching staff is going to be huge in that. They do have to shore up the bullpen. Their bullpen is bottom 10 in baseball when it comes to ERA. They have a 4.52. But outside of that, if Tampa Bay could keep it up on the pitching side, they will be a problem, but as well as the hitting side. And I want to point out a player who I believe is the most underrated player in Major League Baseball, and that is Yandy Diaz. Every single season, Yandy Diaz is showing up and he's showing out. This season, he has a 3.33 average, 3.33 average, 4.22 on-base percentage, 5.04 slugging, a 9.26 OPS, 5 home runs, 21 RBIs, and the guy just doesn't strike out. 16 strikeouts to 13 walks. So he's almost walking for every strikeout he gets. And what he's been able to do on a year-to-year basis, and no one talks about, is honestly crazy. He has consistently been one of the best players in Major League Baseball, and it's just he does not get the recognition he deserves. Another guy for Tampa Bay this season, who's continued his success from last season, has been Junior Caminero. What a season he is having at the plate. He has his 9 home runs and 16 RBIs. His OPS is exactly the same as last season so far, but the difference is he's getting on base more. He has 17 walks in his 33 games. His walk rate is up 3.8% from last season, and his strikeout rate is 1% lower from last season. And that's a big thing for a guy like Caminero. The question was, how will he be able to adjust to Tropicana Field after playing in what is a minor league spring training park in George Steinbrenner Field last season? And he's been able to make that adjustment pretty well in their home games, and it's something that he will get more credit for throughout the season when the numbers look better. But right now, he's already having a season that is very comparable to what he had last season, and what's big for Tampa Bay throughout this season. Him, Diaz, as well as Jonathan Aranda, the average is there, but he does have 28 RBIs and 7 home runs and an 8.14 OPS during his first 33 games of the season. And for Tampa Bay, it's just really, really big for their top of the lineup to be producing. They do have question about the bottom. Chandler Simpson has been hitting pretty well for mostly singles. His OPS is under 700, which is, for someone with a 300 average, is very rare. But the top of the lineup is producing. If they can get production from the bottom of the lineup, they can potentially take that step to be a team that is at the top of the AL. But the team that's at the top of the AL right now is the New York Yankees, something that isn't a surprise to most people. The Yankees were the best team in the American League in 2024, and they're continuing that now in 2026. They're 23-11 on the season, which is the best record in the American League, and they're close to the best record in baseball, game and a half behind Atlanta. And the craziest thing is that they're also dealing with a lot of injuries. Giancarlo Stanton's on the IL right now. No Garrett Cole, he hasn't pitched at all this season. Neither has Carlos Rodon. And the craziest thing about that is that they have the best rotation in baseball, statistically wise. They have a 2.74 ERA throughout their starters this season. A big part of that, Max Fried, his 2.39 ERA over his 52 innings of work. Will Warren has a similar ERA at 2.39 as well over his 37 innings. Ryan Weathers, a trade that's worked out great for them so far at 3.03 ERA over his 38 innings of work. And the biggest one has been Cam Schlittler, who has been probably one of the biggest rising stars in Major League Baseball since his wild card performance last year in Game 3 against Boston. Now this year, he has a 1.51 ERA, which is third in Major League Baseball, 49 strikeouts in his 41 innings of work, and a 0.74 whip. He has taken the league by storm this season. He's been a big reason he's become almost what is, I could say, the Yankees' ace. If the playoffs started today, I could see him getting the ball in a game one because of how good he has been this season, to the point where he is very much so in the conversation for American League Cy Young. Again, it is early, but the numbers that he's putting up are really, really impressive, and it's something that will take the league by notice because of the fact that they have had these four really solid starters. Their fifth starter is more of a question. Luis Gil just got optioned to AAA, but you have these four really solid starters. You have two ace-level starters in Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon coming back in a matter of weeks at this point with both of them. So the biggest thing for the Yankees, if they could keep their guys currently healthy, adding two new guys is going to be really dangerous to a rotation that's already really good. I also want to give a shout out to their bullpen. Brett Hendrick, what a season he's having. A 1.59 ERA in his 18 games with 17 strikeouts. He's been someone out of the Yankees bullpen who has been their go-to lefty at this point. He's had an incredible season. To complement their closer, David Bednar, who is up there. He leads the American League in saves with 9. He's having a great season in what is his walk year. He's a free agent after the season, and they got him from Pittsburgh last year. He's been lights out for them since he's come over. He's become their closer from day one, and he's been able to get guys out at a high level. That's what the Yankees have needed in the back end of their bullpen, and that has been a big part of their success too. Their entire pitching staff, both of them ERA-wise, are top 10. Like I said, their rotation is number 1. Their bullpen is also top 10. Fernando Cruz is having a great season in their bullpen as well. That's been a big part of the Yankees' success. But obviously, everyone knows why the Yankees are also having success, and that is at the plate, and that is number 99, Aaron Judge. What a season he's having again. He got off to a slower start. He still has 13 home runs somehow, 23 RBIs, a 1.031 OPS, which is 4th in Major League Baseball. You can't get this guy out. He is incredible. He's one of the best players of this generation in between him and Ohtani. But what he does every single time he goes up to the plate, it's a show whenever you watch an Aaron Judge at bat. His numbers are a little concerning this year, I would say. They're not Aaron Judge level numbers. The advanced metrics don't look great, but the eye test tells you all you need to know about an Aaron Judge. He's still one of the best players in the world, one of the best players in the league, and he has showed up for the Yankees this year. But the guy who has really showed up, his name is Ben Rice. His stats this season: he is first in the major leagues in OPS, in slugging, in on-base percentage. He is second in MLB in average. He is third in home runs, third in runs scored, and eighth in RBIs. He, right now, if the season ends today, he would be the American League MVP. 12 home runs, 27 RBIs, 343 average, 455 on base percentage, 759 slugging percentage, a 1.214 OPS. He has taken the league by storm. His first season wasn't as good. He was a little shaky, a little, ooh, is this guy cut out to be in the major leagues? Last season, he got an everyday role. He was able to produce more. He was played in over 130 games. He played in the postseason, had big hits there too. This year, he's rounding into shape. He just got injured in the game on Sunday against the Baltimore Orioles. It was a thumb injury. He had to leave the game, but that will only keep him out a couple of days. He has been a guy who, you put him in the lineup, he's been perfect for Aaron Judge this season, right, to hit right behind him. And for the Yankees, if they have these two going, Cody Bellinger's having another great season. You have Jose Caballero, who's producing at shortstop. Giancarlo Stanton was having a good season before he went on the IL. You add all this with their rotation, the Yankees are going to be hard to beat in what is, at the end of the day, a weaker American League this season. They could cakewalk their way back to the World Series for the second time in 3 years. But when I talk about Jose Caballero, he's not usually the Yankees starting shortstop. Their usual starting shortstop for the last couple of years has been Anthony Volpe. He had some shoulder surgery back in the offseason. He was on a rehab assignment. He had 13 games. And after that, the Yankees decided to option him to AAA. And what I would say call a stunning move that mostly no one saw coming, that they moved him down to AAA. And it questions his future with the Yankees. In his rehab assignment, he did not hit terribly. 250 average, 1 home run, and 6 RBIs. But now he's not even the major league shortstop. You have to ask that question. Jose Caballero has played well enough where he should not be taken out as a major league shortstop. You have Volpe now at AAA, but he might not get playing time every day because you have George Lombard Jr., your top prospect and a 27th prospect overall in Major League Baseball. He just got called up to AAA last week. So now you have two shortstops at AAA. You have a major league starting shortstop. What do you do with a guy like Anthony Volpe? Do you try to trade him? I think that's the most likely option for him, for Luis Gil, and honestly for Jason Dominguez. These group of Yankee prospects have not worked out so far. And now the Yankees have to make the choice whether they take their loss and they trade them, or they try to keep improving what they have not been able to improve yet. That's going to be the biggest question, especially with a guy like Anthony Volpe in what is a shocking move? What is next for his future with the Yankees? Next, let's talk about the Chicago White Sox. What a year and what a week they just had. 5-1 in their last 6 games. They took 2 out of 3 from the San Diego Padres. They swept the Los Angeles Angels. And what they've been able to do this season is something that a lot of people probably didn't see coming, especially because of how they're doing it. People could have said, "Oh, the White Sox could have won, 6. They could be 16-18 in May," but no one expected them to have the numbers they are having. Right now, they're third in the American League Central. They're better than the Kansas City Royals, a team that most people thought were at least going to be a fringe wildcard team, if not be in the wildcard. They are 1.5 game back for being the best team in the American League Central, behind the Guardians and Detroit Tigers, and they're tied third in the American League wildcard picture, which is something that no one saw coming, considering who is in the American League and who they're ahead of right now. This has been a really surprising season from the Chicago White Sox, and a big part of that has been the guy who they signed for relatively cheap this offseason, Munetaka Murakami. One of the biggest questions about Murakami coming in and why a lot of teams did not want to sign him was his strikeout rate. And his strikeouts have been a little bit of an issue. He has a 33%, his K rate is at 33%, which is bottom 5% in Major League Baseball. He has 50 strikeouts, which is 5th in the major leagues. But you could take a guy who strikes out like that when he's hitting bombs. He's hit 13, which is tied for the most in major leagues with Aaron Judge, 26 RBIs, a 907 OPS this season for Murakami. If this is sustainable, Murakami's on pace to most likely be the American League Rookie of the Year with how he's performing. Add on, you have Colson Montgomery keeping up what he started last season with the end of his campaign. He's fifth the American League Rookie of the Year voting. This season had nine home runs already, 22 RBIs. Sam Antonelli, they just called him up, and he's had a good start, 792 OPS with a home run. His only home run coming as inside the park home run, funny enough. And then you also have their rotation, who's performed really well. You have Sean Burke, a 2.72 ERA in his 7 appearances, his 5 starts, 32 strikeouts in his 39 innings. You have Noah Schultz, who they just called up from AAA, their top prospect, 2.53 ERA in his 4 starts. But the biggest surprise and the biggest performer they've had has been Davis Martin, a 1.95 ERA over his 6 starts, which is 7th in Major League Baseball, 37 innings pitched, 33 strikeouts, 1.08 whip. And he has been what has become their ace this season. Over these last couple of years, he's had 4 ERA seasons. Now he's blossomed into this guy. This could just be one of those hot starts. He might, give up 6 runs in his next outing. But right now, he has become one of the better pitchers in the American League, to the surprise of most. And the metrics back him up. And it's something that will be interesting to see how he develops over the rest of the season, and how this team as a whole develops over the rest of the season. The biggest question about them is also their averages. Murakami's only hitting 223. Montgomery's only hitting 227. So the averages are not high, but when you produce power numbers like they do, and the pitching is there to back them up, that is the biggest key. You also have a guy like Brian Hudson, has a 1.13 ERA in his 17 appearances, 20 strikeouts. He has not allowed a run over his last 15 games, which is incredibly impressive. And he's someone who I had a feeling that he was going to be a breakout guy again this season. Back in 2024, he had a great year with Milwaukee. Didn't pitch that much last year because of injuries. Got traded to the Mets. Mets then traded him to the White Sox. And the White Sox are really getting the benefits from his, how good of a pitcher he is. He's one of the best left-handed relievers in Major League Baseball. And it's something that, the White Sox, if they could get it all together and the pieces moving in the same direction, they could be a dangerous team coming down the stretch if this American League stays like this. Again, they're tied for 3rd in the wild card right now. They get another good weekend, they could be one of the top teams in the wild card picture because of how unstable the American League has been this season and how many teams have struggled out of the gates. Something to watch for Chicago over these next couple of weeks. That'll about wrap it up, though, for this first podcast, but I'll leave you with what to watch for over these next couple of days. This week starting, we have 2 big matchups in the National League Central. The Cubs and the Reds get a 4-game series going at Wrigley Field. The Brewers and Cardinals play 3 down in St. Louis. Those are 2 big series for both of these teams, for both of their standing-wise, with Milwaukee trying to get, they've been playing good baseball. If they could overtake St. Louis, that'll be big. Both the Cubs and Reds are playing really good baseball. They're separated by 2 games right now. And the biggest thing for both of these teams is all 4 of these teams, this is their first times really getting in division play. The Pirates have played the most in division games, but for the rest of these teams, it's one of their first or second or third time playing in the division. These are the biggest games they're playing all season because they need to win these types of division games. So this is something to watch for definitely during this week. Turk Skubal and a lot of the aces in Major League Baseball take the mound. You see Skubal on Monday, Sanchez on Tuesday, Yamamoto on Monday. You have Ohtani on Tuesday. Both of them are facing the Astros in the 2017 World Series matchup. Paul Skeens goes on Wednesday. So it's a lot of aces wild during this next 3-day stretch. But next time I'll be back on Around the Bases will be on Thursday. We'll be breaking down the last 3 days and going into the weekend of Major League Baseball. Next podcast will be tomorrow, Phillies fan podcast for all the Phillies fans. That will be tomorrow, first episode of that, and then it'll be back on Friday. But thank you for listening to this first episode of the podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Check out the other links. Check out the daily blogs that get posted on Substack. Again, thank you for watching. I'm Jaden Harper, and I'll see you in the next one.